So a few years ago, we had our first Halloween with our older two kids. They'd been living with us at this point for maybe about 3 or 4 months, and we were still kind of adjusting and all going through this phase. And of course, all the kids were excited. I mean, who wouldn't be excited about candy, right? That's just a normal kid thing. And I just remember we all got our costumes on and we were going around walking house to house. And my son just stops and he looks at me and he says, "I think this is the best day of my whole life. I can't believe I'm actually going trick-or-treating." And I was like, wait a second. I was like, "Emmett, have you never gone trick-or-treating before?" And he's like, "No, I've never been able to go. I can't believe I can actually go now." And I was just shocked because I had no clue. I assumed, he was 6 years old at this point. I assumed he had been trick-or-treating before. And believe it or not, a similar conversation has played out time and time again in our family, albeit under different situations and circumstances, in our adoption journey with our older kids. So today I want to share with you all of the firsts that we experienced with our kids who were a little bit older when we adopted them from foster care, so you can get an idea of what it's actually like to adopt older kids. Hey there, if you're one of my subscribers, welcome back. You are near and dear to my heart, and I appreciate you so much for being here. But if we haven't met before, hi, my name is Katie, and I am an adoptive mom to 3 kids who are currently ages 5 through 12. My husband Nick and I adopted them from foster care at a variety of different ages, and so we have this kind of interesting perspective on things. Also, I am an adoption consultant, and I work with families from all over the country to help them get started on their adoption journeys. I help answer all of the questions they have about how the adoption process works, how to get started specifically adopting from foster care, how to find an agency, and all of those good things. While you could research for hours and hours and days and weeks on your own to find all this information, I'm here to be the shortcut for you and help you understand what adoption is truly like from someone who has gone through it, and to give you all of the reassurance and help and encouragement and support that you need. If you would like to work with me, I always include a link down below in the description, as well as a link pinned in the comments below. Also, I'm just going to take a minute and say that if you haven't subscribed yet, I hope you will, so we can hang out more together and talk about adoption and foster care and all of the questions you have regarding that. It's free to subscribe. It's free. So take a minute and do that. Okay, now what you really came here for, which is all of the first experiences that are possible to experience with older children you adopt from foster care. Now, as an adoption consultant, I frequently work with families who say that they mostly want to adopt a child 5 or under. And unfortunately, it's my duty to let them know that while it is possible, it's just not as common to adopt a child that young from foster care, especially if you are hoping to adopt a child individually, like not as a part of a sibling group, or if you're uncomfortable with certain special needs. It can just be really difficult to be matched with a child that young. So whenever I get clients who say that to me, I always like to just challenge them as to why. Why does that age range feel okay, but anything above that doesn't feel okay? We really get down to the real reasons, and there can be a myriad of reasons, but I will say that one I often hear is that they don't want to miss out on their child's first experiences as they were. And a lot of times as these people were growing up and envisioning having kids in the future, especially if they envisioned having kids biologically originally, it can be a really big mindset shift to move to, oh, I might be adopting a child that's a little older, that I'm not going to experience all those things with. And I think there is a misconception that if you adopt older kids, that they're going to have already experienced all these things and you're going to miss out on experiencing those things with them. Because when I tell you that we experienced so many unexpected firsts with our kids, I am telling you, it shocked me. Some of the things were more obvious that I figured they hadn't experienced, but there were things that were such simple childhood common experiences that you don't even need money to do, that my kids had never experienced. And so what was really special about that was, even though we adopted them at slightly older ages, we still got to experience those firsts. So today I want to share with you this list of firsts. I am sure this is not an exhaustive list because my memory is not perfect, but I'm going based on what I can remember. And I just want to preface this by saying this list was not created based off of my youngest, who we adopted at 2 years old. This is based off all of these things were either for my oldest, who we adopted, she came to us when she was 10, or our middle child, who came to us at about 6. So I'm going to start with like the more obvious ones that you would kind of expect maybe they haven't done, because a lot of kids haven't done these things. But going to Disney World was one. Going on a cruise was one. Along with that, flying in an airplane, seeing the beach, or going to the beach at all. And then we can even go down to going on any sort of vacation at all. They had never done that. I think of some other kind of fun recreational things we've done as a family. One of the things my kids love and wish we did more often is going to a trampoline park. It is not something we do super often because it's a little pricey if you ask me, but that is something they had never experienced before, and now they are obsessed with and ask me, I don't know, weekly if we can go. Along with traveling, like seeing mountains, they had never seen mountains, they had never seen the beach, and so that was a really cool thing to experience with them the first time. I remember when we were driving to Tennessee early on, like early days, and they were like, what are those? Like, especially my son, he was like, whoa, because he had never seen mountains in real life before. And so it was so exciting, and just watching like the joy in his eyes, experiencing that and being so amazed by it, it just like melted my heart, because you don't think about those things if you've grown up traveling or you've grown up around mountains or whatever. It was just really, really cool to see. Going to an aquarium, going to a museum, riding an escalator like the ones at the mall. One of my children had never done that before, and they were so amazed by the escalator. It was kind of like Buddy the Elf in the movie Elf, where he's like going up the escalator and he's like spreading his legs out really far because he's never been on one or seen one. That's what it reminded me of, and it was so precious. Watching fireworks. We were at 4th of July fireworks this one summer. First summer our kids were coming to visit us, and we went to fireworks, and I realized my kids had never gone and watched fireworks before. They had heard them in the distance, obviously, but they had never actually gone. And so it was a little bit scary for them as well as exciting. But yeah, it was so strange to me. I was like, oh, I just never expected that they wouldn't have gone and watched fireworks before. Another one of my very favorite memories of first experiences that we had with our kids was going sledding. The best part about this was it was kind of like my Halloween story at the beginning, where I had no idea that they had not been sledding before. I guess I assumed they're from like northern Ohio. They've probably gone sledding before. They've probably, played in the snow a lot. And while I think they had played in the snow a little bit, sledding was never something they had done. I actually have a vlog of that because happened to be vlogging that week, and then I realized that they had never gone sledding before, and it was so sweet. So I can include that above in a card and also put it in the description box, because it was a really fun little week. Other like leisure activities they'd never done before were like going to a movie theater, and get this, going to a local library. I was shocked. I'm the type of person, I'm like a big nerd. You can see all my books back here. This shelf is just one of many bookshelves in our house. But I just loved reading growing up, and I loved going to the library. And I remember like my mom or my grandma would take me, and we'd go make little crafts there, and I would play computer games, and I would check out books and do the summer reading program. So for me, the library was like a huge part of my childhood. And while my kids go to library at school, they have their school library. It was kind of during COVID when our kids first came to our house, so we weren't going to the public library as much. And one day I was like, you know what? We need to go get them library cards. And I took them and found out they had not only never had their own library card, they had never gone to a public library before. So they were amazed at all the options and that you could check out DVDs. And now it's just become a regular part of our lives. I'm actually planning to take them there after I'm done filming this video, so I better not talk for too long. Getting a haircut was one for one of our kids, that they had never had a haircut before. Going to church was a big one as well. Even though they believed in God and they prayed before bed and they did all these things, they'd never actually been to a church service. So that was a little bit of an adjustment, but it was really cool to kind of share that with them the first time and see how they got more comfortable with their little Sunday school class and made friends as they adjusted. Another really fun one was having a friend birthday party. It's not that they had never had birthday parties, their foster mom celebrated birthdays with them, but this was the first time they invited friends to come to a birthday party and had one at their house, and that was really cool to experience with them. We took the kids to a children's zoo in my hometown area, and they have this pony riding thing. It's the best. I loved it as a kid. So we took them there, and that was the first time they had ever ridden a horse, which that one I understand more because that's not super common. I don't know about you. I don't ride horses frequently. Hello, if I could, I would be all over that, but that's not a normal part of my life. Another one is that our kids had never been able to play a sport or even be in any sort of school or extracurricular activity before. For those of you who don't know, my older two kids were living with an 81-year-old foster mom before they came to us, and she is like the best. We love her. She loves the kids so much. She sends them birthday cards and we go see her and visit her, but she was super limited on what she could go take kids to do. She was older. And so obviously it was a big adjustment for our kids to be able to do things like that. And so it's been really fun. Our daughter was able to play volleyball with the YMCA and our son played soccer with the YMCA, and they just really enjoyed having those opportunities. Our daughter also tried out gymnastics and dance, and our son was in like a ninja class at one point. They call it ninja, but it was kind of like gymnastics. And so it was just cool to give them that experience of trying some things out and seeing what they like and seeing if it's something that they'd want to stick with. Can't remember if I said this one already, but going to a wedding, which is not like a kid's favorite thing to do typically. I think the girls liked it a little more, but they'd never been to a wedding. And now, believe me, they've been to their share of weddings. I mean, like, since they've moved in with us, they've been to my brother's wedding, my sister's wedding, my best friend's wedding, a former student's wedding. I mean, so many weddings. And we've got more. So it just never ends. We just go to weddings all the time. Okay, I think I only have a couple more now, but one of the ones that I really love seeing was we got to experience our kids for the first time getting grades that they were proud of, getting good grades that they felt good about and that they had accomplished on their own. And so that was really rewarding to see, especially if you have a kid who's a struggling student or is just behind because of all of the changes they've gone through in their lives, totally understandably. To watch them accomplish something and realize they can do something and get a good grade, it's just the best. And then I'm saving this one for last. Maybe this won't seem crazy to you, but it seemed really crazy to me, is that when we picked our kids up for their very first visit coming to our house, we live about 3 or so hours away from their hometown. And so we get in the car, and as we're driving, we've only been driving for maybe 10 minutes. And my son goes, "Are we there yet?" And we're like, "No, we still have a really long time, okay?" And then it's like 10 more minutes. He's like, "Are we there now?" We're like, "No, like a really, really, really long time." Well, turns out he had never been on a car trip longer than like 20 minutes. He had never been outside of his town, ever. Would have been good to know before we took them in the car, but we did have some things to entertain them, and we stopped several times to break up the trip. But that blew my mind. They'd never been outside of his town. Now he's a champ in the car, and he can keep himself entertained for a long time with his tablet, let's be honest. But he can also draw and play games, and he's great in the car now. But it was a lot at first for him because, yeah, he was pretty much the farthest he had gone was like the grocery store. So like I said, this is not an exhaustive list, but these are the things my husband and I, when we talked through, we kind of came up with, and we're like, wow, there really were so many firsts. So if you are someone who's hesitant to at least be open to adopting an older child, I hope that this list will give you some encouragement that maybe, just maybe, you could still have a lot of those really awesome first-time experiences with your kid, even if you adopt them at an older age. And I don't know, for me personally, being able to experience those firsts with a child who is older is almost more meaningful because they're finally getting the experience that most kids are able to have. They're finally getting the experience to just be a kid and go sledding and go trick-or-treating and do all the fun things. And you get to be a part of that, and you get to witness that joy that they're experiencing. And like, parenting is really hard, okay? Definitely the hardest thing I've ever done. And I will tell you that my favorite moments of parenting are just watching my kids genuinely enjoy something, especially like a cool experience that we get to do together. I just love seeing how it brings joy to them and they get to experience something new. And again, if they're an older kid and you find out they've never done this thing before, it's like even more exciting to get to witness that with them. So is your heart maybe starting to open up to the idea of adopting an older kid or maybe even a teenager? I know you might still be unsure about that, but again, I just encourage you to kind of open up your heart with that. Open up your mind and think about what could it actually look like. I have a few other videos about adopting older children that I'm going to link below as well as a video about filling out kind of your home study checklist and how I do encourage people to kind of open up on the age range a little bit for reasons like this, but for other reasons as well. So if you want to check those out, those would be great to watch after this video. And maybe this is something that would be even more helpful to just talk to someone about. Again, you can check out my link and book a consultation with me. I promise I will never pressure you into adopting a kid older than what you feel like you can handle, but we could have a really good conversation and I could talk you through some of these things. I'd love to help you with that. Okay. If you are still here, you're like one of my favorite people because you made it all the way to the end of the video. And I like to do this, I don't know, every couple videos and just see who are my favorites. So in the comments, you get to answer my secret question. Okay, my question for this time is I would love to know, because we're talking about traveling a lot in this one, I would love to know, are you someone who stayed in your hometown where you grew up? Or are you someone who moved away from your hometown? Even if you only moved away for like a period of time, I would love to know. So if you stayed in your hometown, I would like you to put a little house emoji in the comments. And if you're someone who left your town, let's do the city emoji, even though you may not have left. I didn't leave my hometown for a big city, okay? But that will be our differentiation. So I'd love to see that in the comments. It's just fun to get to know you guys a little bit. I appreciate you so much for watching all the way to the end. I hope you're having an awesome day and I will see you next week.